Well, it's been a long time since I've been back in this game. Okay, so this is Tank Mechanic Simulator, and to be honest, it's been so long since I had a go at this game, so I can't even remember what I was up to and what tanks that I'd actually repaired, renovated and collected. So what I'm just going to do here is have a little bit of a tour of the tank museum and see what I've been up to and see what tanks that I actually have collected. So we'll start in the workshop here, and immediately I can see what I think is a KV-1. Yeah, it's a KV-1, no turret. Here's the turret over here, which needs everything doing it to it, basically. Now, the KV-1 had the smaller turret with a 76mm gun on it, I think. It doesn't tell you there, but yeah, it was the smaller turret with the 76mm, not the KV-2 Troll cannon with the 152mm gun, naval gun on it. But quite a good tank to do, and quite an important tank as well, because it led to, of course, the larger heavy tanks of the Soviet army during World War II, eventually to things like the IS series and the IS-2. But this was quite a formidable tank. The only downside of it was in its normal configuration, the KV-1s, the rather abysmal 76mm gun. So in a way it was kind of like the Soviet Matilda, in that a terrific armour, very strong tank which the Germans had a lot of problems penetrating, but on the downside had quite a weak gun. But anyway, that was solved later. Let's see what else we've got. Oh, here's one of my favourites. There we go. The M10 tank destroyer, American tank destroyer. I do love the American tank destroyer series of tanks. Well, destroyers. They really were able to offset the advantage that the Germans had with some of their heavier gun tanks. Obviously the weakness here was light armour, and can I get all the way up here? Can I jump? No, I can't. Let's see if I can pick up the steps. Yes, I can. Bring them across here. And let's just have a look at the top of the tank to see one of its major weaknesses, which of course was the open top. Now this was very light armour. It wasn't intended to really take on tanks in a one-to-one situation. It was a tank destroyer, so ambush and taking out tanks at a distance. Now the M10, I think it had a 90mm gun, so it was a reasonable gun, and it could take on the heaviest German tanks up to the Tiger 1, I believe. I'm not sure about the Tiger 2s. But of course, for the crew, serving with an open top here was a distinct disadvantage, because eventually the Germans just learned, instead of taking it on face to face, they simply bring in artillery. And of course, I believe that most of the crews of the American tank destroyer fleet, most of the losses were actually through artillery and not tank-to-tank duels. But still, a very nice tank, very good gun, 90mm. Would I say it was better than the British 17-pounder? Well, I guess technically you'd probably say it was, but ballistically I don't know, because the 17-pounder had specialist rounds, which I've forgotten the name of now, that made the things like the Sherman Firefly be able to take on things like the Tigers. So let's see what I've got in my paint shop here. A lot of work needed here. I think I've just used this for storage, because this is definitely not ready for painting. M8 Greyhound, that's a lovely little vehicle. American reconnaissance armoured car. Very nice little vehicle, but as you can see, this needs everything doing to it. So I think I've just parked in here just to get it out the way at the moment, while I finish off the KV1 it looks like, because this to me looks like, yeah, finished condition 100%. Yeah, so it's all put together and painted. It just needs the turret finishing and painted, of course, and then it'll be ready to take it to the paint shop for its final coats. At that point, I'll have to take the Greyhound out of here and place it in the workshop area. So there we go. That's what's in the workshop at the moment. I do seem to have I can't remember what extra bits I have. That looks like another turret repair station here. So I've got enough space here to repair 2 tanks at a time. Okay, then I've got the parts workshop here where I collect, repair and put together components for the tanks, and my office area with the computer. Okay, so that's the main workshop area. Oh look, I've got an engine on. Is that the KV1 engine? Yeah, that's the KV1 engine, which hasn't been put back in yet. So I've got that to repair as well. Okay, let's go outside to the yard. Just have a sip of tea here. Ah. Oh, right. Oh, I've got quite a lot in the yard up there. It looks like I've taken up all the spaces in the backyard here. Well, that's Hanomag, isn't it? A German half-track. Yeah, they're nice. What's that? That's Panzer 1? No, it's a Panzer 2. Okay. Nothing around here. Oh, it's a T-34. Yep, T-34-76. So ironically, although this was a lighter tank than the KV series, it actually had the same gun, so there was basically little advantage with the KVs other than they had heavier armour. Panzer 3. Okay. Oh, and it looks like it's got the little attachments there to put on the side armour. So that'll look impressive when it's done. What have we got over here? Geez, what's this? Oh, it's the Little Willie. It's the British prototype tank from the First World War. Oh, now that'll be nice to put together because I've never done anything other in this game than World War II vehicles. Actually, that would be a nice thought for this game where it could progress, is bringing in post-war vehicles. Now this is another... Oh, what is this? Is it another M8 variant? No, M20 armoured utility car. Now is that based on the M8? We've just seen the Greyhound in the paint shop. Now this is the reconnaissance version, no turret on it, just a ring there for a 50 cal. Interesting. Haven't done that before either. So what have I got in the scrapyard? Let's have a look. Oh, what's this? Now that looks like a Vickers 6 ton. Can I get the... I can't remember some of the controls here, I'm afraid. But I do believe that is a Vickers 6 ton, which was never actually adopted by the British Army, ironically, because it was a fantastic export success by the Vickers Company in the interwar period. Very successful indeed. The British Army didn't pick it up, but countries like Finland did. There was a whole host of nations that picked this particular tank up, including the Soviets, who decided to license build this. So ironically, this turned out to be one of the most built, let's see if I can get this right, the most built British light tanks of that period, never having been adopted by the British Army itself. Now that's obviously a Sherman, but which one? I can't remember offhand. That now the hatches are right on top here, and it's got that very sheer front. So that's A3 model. could be the Easy 8, I guess. Again, I can't tell. That's it in the scrapyard. Nothing else in the scrapyard. That I look forward to doing. The little Vickers. Okay, well let's go into the museum itself and see what we've got indoors. And also, before I go in, what state it's in. Because what I found with this game is every time there's an update, it tends to corrupt some of the files. So when I've had tanks painted with all the decals on, when there's been an update, these have been corrupted, and so it'll be interesting to see what work I have to redo on some of the tanks that I've collected. And we go to the museum. Right, here we go. Oh, there we go. There's the Hanomag. Oh, look at that. Yep, this is the corruption I'm talking about. Those hatches up there were done, the rust taken off them, and they were repainted, and some of the tools are the same now. So this is going to have to be taken back into the workshop and redone. Damn. Ooh, got a nice early version of this dog. I've given it desert camo there. Well, that doesn't look too bad, but I've still got this horrible feeling that some of the decals are missing off this. So that's perhaps has a bit of corruption as well. Shame. What we've got here. Oh, so I have done a Panzer III, and that looks superb. But again, some of the decals are missing. Things like the German cross and things like that. But I've done a nice job with the camouflage. That looks very nice. Oh, a Tiger. Oh, and the decals look alright on this one. And it doesn't... Yeah, rust on the back here. That's going to have to be taken at the repair shop to be redone. So that was corrupted. Damn. Some of my cabinets are empty. Some of them have a couple of items that I've found. Panther. That doesn't look too bad. And the decals don't look corrupted either. So that's fared a bit better. Another T35. Oh no, that T34, sorry. T3476. And again, the decals are missing on that, but it seems to be complete. Oh, this is my Russian section. I tried to split up the museum. So all this area is my German collection. This middle section was my Soviet selection, and there's the great big troll cannon, the KV2, and that looks perfect. It doesn't look like there's any corruption on this at all, and it's even still got their decals which I originally put on it. That's smashing. Nothing needs to be done. Look at that gun though. If you've ever played World of Tanks, this particular tank is infamous with that 152mm naval gun in it. Very slow to load, but it's a one-shot kill in practically anything, so there's a lot of fun to be had playing that. Oh my, what's this? T3485, yeah, that looks okay as well. Decals are on. Doesn't seem to be any parts which need repairing again, so that's okay. Oh, some of my cabinets are still full with the items that I've collected when I've gone on digs. You can actually leave the museum and go on archaeological digs and dig up both tanks and items like this, and when you find the items you can put them then in your museum. And I've got a couple of Soviet items there. That's a PPSH, I think, is it? Submachine gun, and that's a Soviet tank gun. And this was the space that I had reserved for all my American collection. So what have I got? 1, 2, 3 empty spaces, and this one full space taken up with a Pershing. Okay, that's quite an important tank. This is at the end of World War II. The tank that the Americans brought out to tackle the Tiger IIs and the bigger tanks the Germans had brought into service. I guess it's along the same lines as the British Centurion. Although this beat the Centurion into active service, this saw action late war in Germany. Just beat the Centurion Mark 1 to deployment, although I believe that 10 prototype Centurions were taken across to mainland Europe just as the war ended. But the main British tank at that time was, of course, the fantastic Comet. I believe this had a 90mm gun, so it outgunned the British Comet, which had a 77 or 76mm version of the British 17-pounder gun. But this sort of served the Americans well over into the Korean War, and led to the line of post-war American tanks, the various Pershing types, leading up to eventually the M60, M48 and M60, I believe. Sorry, I'm a bit rusty on my military history here. So I've already put a sign down for this M20, which is out in the backyard there waiting to be done. So that's where that's going to go. Empty sign here for whatever's going here. That'll probably be that M10 tank destroyer, and that still leaves me with an additional space here. Sherman. Undoubtedly it'll be, oh yeah, because I've got that Sherman out in the scrapyard there, which I want to get my hands on next. And like I say, I think it's a M4A3 version. It might even be an Easy 8, I'm not sure. And that'll sit nicely in this area. Okay, and then I believe we can go from here back into the workshop. So there we go. That's a bit of a tour of my Tank Mechanics Simulator museum, virtual museum. So what I'll probably work on next is getting this KV1 finished to join my KV2 in the museum. You can actually, if you don't want them in your museum, you can actually sell them. You can go over to your office here, and via the computer you can, oh, there's a collectibles shop now. Now that's new since the last time I opened this, because I always found it hard to get hold of these collectibles to put in my museum. So you can actually buy these now to put in your museum. That's interesting. Machine guns. Ah, lovely. And get hold of an M2 Browning, because I think I need that to put that on the top of some, like that M10 tank destroyer. I don't have that for that particular tank, so I can buy this and then install it on the M10. Oh, smashing. Vickers MMG. There are tons of MG34s and 42s there. Yeah, there's 42. And your Russian, and M1919 Browning, which was used as on all the American light tanks. I wonder if they do a Stuart. Let's see what else we've got in here. Tank parts, tank museum. That's just my financial bank. Here we go. So this will give you an idea of what tanks you can actually build within the game, and hopefully there's some new ones since the last time I was in. Oh yeah, it looks like it. Different versions of the Tiger, for example. Oh, M4 Jumbo. That's the real. That might be the tank that's actually in the scrapyard. I don't know. Again, you can tell it because it's got this very sloped frontal armour area, and the crew hatches are on this top bit. Unlike the earlier Shermans, which, although they had this diagonal front shield here, the crew hatches actually were prominent and poked out a little bit here. You can see them on all these M4 Shermans. M4A1, that's the cast metal body version. Oh, lovely. Churchill. Oh, fantastic. Of course, oh yeah. Your big German tanks for all the Nazi fanboys. Tiger, which is a must for any tank museum, I guess. M18 Hellcat. Now that's a lighter variation of the American tank destroyers. This was very light and ultra mobile, and it was to use its mobility to kind of get around and get from place to place where there were these heavy gunned tank destroyers were needed. Vickers E, yeah, there we go. That's the Vickers. I want to do that one if I possibly can. It's got all the parts in for that, so I'm going to do that. That's that little Willy. That was the prototype tank. You can see there's no guns on it because it was literally the prototype of the early British tanks. More German tanks, bit boring for me, I'm afraid. And I must admit, the Soviet tanks got a little bit boring as well. Once I'd done my T-34, I was like, yeah, been there, done that. Even more Tigers. M4A3. Now that's the Easy 8 with the heavier. Was that a heavy 76mm gun that the Germans, the Americans put on that? Excuse me. There's your Persian. Yeah. There we go. Definitely want to build one of those. One of my favourite World War II vehicles, the M3 half-track. Smash in. And that's about it, isn't it? Nothing else there that are really particularly fancy. So, out of all these, I'd love to do the Churchill. Definitely want to do the Vickers E. M3 half track, want to do that. And that's about it. They don't seem to have many other British tanks in, which is a bit of a shame. I would love to have seen a Valentine, for example, Cromwell, Comet, that sort of thing in there. Love to see a Matilda in there. It's funny because as I was growing up, British tanks, World War tanks, were definitely out of fashion. They had a lot of people criticising them, but there seems to have been a kind of reassessment of British tanks in the 2000s, and a lot of people are a lot more fond of the British World War II tanks, particularly the Valentine and the Matilda. Even the Cromwell has got its fans these days, but of course they've taken the easy option here and stuck in lots of German tanks for the fanboys. I can't believe there's three different models of Tiger, isn't there? There's Tiger 2, of course, but the Tiger 1, there's three different models of Tiger 1. Jeez. 3 different models of Tiger 1, but no Matilda. Who would have thought? So there you go. How'd you get out of this again? There we go. So that's it. That's my little tour of my tank museum with, oh god, looks like that's an 88, German 88 gun there, which I've got to do. Is it? Looks like an 88. Where's that from? Okay. Alright, so this would be the next job, finishing off this KV-1. And that's my tour of my tank mechanic simulator game. I think it's due a bit of an update, but it's already had several updates. One of the things that I'm most disappointed about is some of the things I would have liked to have seen. For example, in the museum area, if we go back into here, I would have liked to have seen that expanded so you could have more places to display tanks. I would have also liked to have seen an outdoor display area where you could display some tanks and swap them around between there. I would also have liked a kind of almost like a game within a game where you have to run the finances of the museum. There's a little bit of that where you actually earn money through your repairs, but what I would like to have seen is that the more rare tank that you have in your museum, that you actually attract more visitors, and that earns you an income. I would like to have seen that. I would have liked to have seen you being able to add sort of like a cafe, car park, visitors car park, cafe, and a shop for selling tank related sort of souvenirs, giving the whole museum a more economic kind of game to it, so that you could work on selling these tanks to provide yourself an income so that you could buy rarer tanks. But there you go, they haven't done that. I don't think they possibly will now. The updates that they are doing seem to be restricted to what area you have with the tank museum, which again I think is a bit of a pity, but there you go. I still can't take my eyes off this KV2. What a monster. Can you imagine being a German and one of those come around the corner? Game over. Thanks for watching.